We think that for us to do something, we have to like have it all figured out and have all the answers, but we really don't. A lot of the things that I've learned, I don't think that I could have anticipated the things that I needed to learn to do this. I'm filming, I'm directing my own films, I'm editing, and I'm doing the interviews, and I'm contacting people, and I'm doing the marketing and website, and it's a lot. And if I knew all that it takes, I probably would have said, no, not right now. But going at it without knowing all the things that I needed to know is actually a blessing.
Hey hatchlings, welcome to the Motion Hatch podcast. I'm your host, Hayley Akins. Hey, thanks so much for joining me on the Motion Hatch podcast. I really appreciate you being here. This week's episode, we spoke to Laura Peña. She's awesome. She's like one of my favorite people. She's a motion designer originally from the Dominican Republic. She's working on a personal project at the moment called She's the Universe, and she's taking a whole year off to do this project. So you'll hear about why she's taking a year off, and we talked a lot about how she's basically working on something that she's super passionate about, and she feels like this is her calling and things like that. It was just so powerful and really, really great. We also talked a bit about being a digital nomad and working remotely. Laura's been traveling around the world for a long time and working with her clients, even clients like Facebook and people like that. And she's been working in Thailand with clients in the US. So if you're interested in that, then definitely stick around for this episode. I know that you're going to really enjoy it. Hey, Laura, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Hayley, for having me. I'm super excited.
So I wanted to ask you to tell us one thing that we might not know about you.
Ooh, that people might not know about me. I'm an open book, so if you go into my Facebook or Instagram, you pretty much can see my entire life. But something that a lot of people don't know about me is that I have 9 siblings.
9? Oh
9 siblings. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But otherwise, I'm a pretty open book. I think if you want to know something about me, you just have to Google me, I think. And it's going to be there.
That's pretty crazy that you have 9 siblings. I think my dad actually has 5. So I thought that was quite a lot, but 9 is pretty crazy.
Oh, yeah. Well, in the Dominican Republic, which is where I'm from, it's actually not that uncommon to have many siblings. But 9, it's way too many. Like, it's 10 of us, and we love each other a lot. And it's like, it's half sisters, half brothers, most of us. But we are super close.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that most of them have the same second name. So we have first name, second name, and then 2 last names. So most of them have the same second name, which is Alfonso or Alfonsina. Except me and my oldest brother, we don't have that name. But then everybody else has the same name.
All right. So that's like, I think we call that like a middle name.
Like a middle name, yeah. The same middle name for everybody.
That's really funny. I like that. That's pretty cool.
We're a big family. When we do a reunion and we invite like boyfriends and girlfriends and family, it's pretty big. We don't need anybody else. Like just us, and we have a party going. Which is pretty much what happens. Yeah, we're party people.
That's awesome. So yeah, you're from the Dominican Republic. So how did you get into motion design?
So I went to university for graphic design first in the Dominican Republic. And then I did another program for a year in a school called Altos de Chabón. And then in between doing my graphic design work, which I did for a few years, and going back to school, I kind of started playing around with Flash. So that's dating me already. But, when Flash was like the thing that everybody used to animate and program. So I will do some action script. And I was doing small games for supermarkets where people will go and they will win something and they will play. And it was electronic. So it's pretty new for my country back then. And I started kind of understanding that idea of animation. And then I went back to school and I went for a certification in digital design. And then that's when I learned about After Effects and Maya and all that. And I fell in love. And then I got a scholarship to go to the US, to go to Parsons, to do design and technology, to go back to university. And I did 2 more years there. And, after that, it was just, I got a job doing small, again, this is going to date me, but they were DVD games. And they were like for Marvel. So, and something for Jurassic Park, I think I did back then. And they were mostly for either for DVD games, or I was doing animation for websites as well. So that was like still Flash, when Flash was still a thing for websites. So that's how I got into this.
I just thought it was really interesting because now I know that, well, I say you live in the US, but you're like traveling around a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just became a US citizen, but I knew you were from the Dominican Republic. And I just wondered like how much of your education you did there and how much you did in the US. I just thought that was really interesting.
Like, it's incredible when the year where I learned the most was a year where I did that digital design program in the DR. That's when kind of like I feel that was my best year of school, really. Like Parsons was great, but that other school was like really, really good because you kind of live there at the school and all you breathe and everything, it's everything. You live there and the teachers are there and you're working on your projects all the time. So you really learn really fast. And then the US was just like, it's been my home. I've been there for 14 years. And the last maybe 4 years, I've been kind of like a nomad. So US, it was my home base. And then now I don't have a home base anymore. I'm just a free bird traveling the world. And right now I'm in Peru, sitting in it's like a backpacker place, kind of like a backpacker mix with like spirituality, yoga thing. That's where I'm at right now.
That sounds amazing. I'm sure everyone's like really jealous. They're like, oh my God, she's in Peru. What's she doing? Just traveling around all the time, being amazing. So I know that a lot of people in the community are really interested in remote working and things like that. So have you worked as like a freelance motion designer whilst traveling around?
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do it. So this is how my path started with this. I was still in New York and I started my own company. I quit my job, that was back in 2014. I quit my job and I started my company, Yellow Monsters. And I was doing everything back then. I was doing websites because I'm also a developer. So I was doing in that designer. I was doing websites, graphic design, and animation, motion graphics. And then I rented an office and it was a fancy thing and I was expecting my clients to come there. But really, I have like some small clients and I will go to them. And then I have some freelance work and then I will just work remotely because that was I really like working remotely. And sometimes I will, because I was in New York, sometimes I will go to the agencies. But so then, because I didn't really have needed at space, then I just stopped renting and I was just working from home. But because New York gets really cold in the winter, I was like, I really want to go back to the Dominican Republic and kind of work from the beach. It's like, is that even possible? So then I started doing that. And then I realized that my clients, my freelance clients, and also my clients, the ones that I will do everything for them, like websites and everything, they really didn't care what I was as long as I was delivering the work. And I started doing it that way. And then I moved, I travel a little farther away. And last year I went to Southeast Asia and I spent about 5 months there. And also the clients but then in the last few years, I'm only doing motion graphics and I do motion graphics for events. So my events clients, it's mostly freelance now. I'm doing mostly freelance work. So they didn't care. But then it was like a little challenging because the time difference is pretty big. So I think it's like 12 hours difference. So I have to be up at 2 a.m. so I could at least have a meeting with a client. And I had like really supportive clients that they didn't really care as long as because I've been working with them for so long that they know my work and they know that I'm a responsible person and they can count on me. But there's a funny story because the way I got to Southeast Asia was just on a whim. Like I really wanted to try and push it and be like, can my clients really come with me if I go that far? And I had a new client and it's a big client. And the process for them to hire me, it was mostly like, it was freelance. So freelance work. So that kind of client. And it was for an event. And it was a contract for, I think it was 3 months. And because it's a big client, the paperwork was really like a long process. And then everything was settled. And I was like, well, that's great. I'm going. They know I'm going to be in Thailand working. I rented an office in Thailand so I could make sure that I have good internet. That was back in December. And I was supposed to start this project around March. So, I'm ready and I'm in Thailand that day. I was in Cambodia first, but I was on my way to Thailand because that was a Thursday. And on Monday, I was supposed to start my project. And I get an email saying like, hey, see you Monday. And this is in California. So I sent an email back and I'm like, I'm in Thailand. I don't think I can come in on Monday. Then the HR just sent another email that I couldn't work from Thailand with the contract that I had. And so long story short, it was a really good project, a really good client with a really good rate. And I had to say no because I really wanted to prove to myself that I could do it remotely in this way. And that job fell through. But, I work with a lot of trust in my life. And then the same way that client went away, another client came in and they were like something that I have proposed a long time ago came back and they were ready. And then that was my project. It was also a few months. So I was set. And that's my story of like how I keep pushing it. And the clients that have been working with me for the longest time, they don't care where I'm at. And the new clients, these are my roles. And, if they want to work with me, well, yes. If they don't, then no.
Yeah, that's super interesting because I think that a lot of people really want to work remotely and, have more clients that are like direct to the client without like an agency in between and things like that. But how did you get some of those clients? I think it's really good that you say no, by the way, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to live the life that you want to lead, which is really cool. But I'm just really interested about like how you get those new clients or whether your old clients, whether you like used to go into their office a lot and then you transitioned out of that.
Yeah. So one of my clients that I know that they will follow me no matter where I'm at, it's an agency that I used to work for. So I used to work for them full time. So they know me very, very well. And that's why I know that if I need work or if they need someone, I'm almost always available for them, or I try to be, so they know that they can count on me. So that's that one. And then the rest is just, people that I used to work for when I was in New York as well, that they know that I was going to go traveling. And then some companies in Silicon Valley as well. For them, I cannot work remotely. Well, I can, but I have to be in the US for that. So for instance, like I work sometimes for Facebook, and for them, I really have to be in the US. So some of them, they're fine for me to work remotely, and some of them are not. And the way I get clients, it's really interesting. Like it's so funny when I'm looking, it's really hard to find them. And then when I'm not looking, I get random emails from random agencies that I've been wanting to work for that I don't even know how they found me. That happened to me a few weeks ago. But it's really interesting because at this moment, I'm working on a project, a personal project. Because of that, I'm not taking client work for a little bit. For the next like 3 to 6 months, I'm not. And then I got all the jobs. And I'm like, but why? Why now? So, sometimes it's just people that I used to know or someone refers me to someone. That's the biggest way, I think, that someone that I know knows someone. So networking is pretty big. And that's the hardest part of traveling, the networking. It's hard to network because usually for someone to like you and recommend you, usually you meet in person. So I try to, even when I'm traveling, I try to keep in touch with the people that I know because you never know who's going to connect you with whom.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. Yeah, so I wanted to go on and talk about your personal project, but I also just wanted to touch on, do you feel like it's better then to maybe have a full-time job before you go freelance or like network in a big city where there's lots of people around to kind of build those contacts up before you work remotely as a freelancer?
I think so. Yeah, I will say every journey is different. But I think that sometimes it's really a good idea to go and work for someone for a little bit and get the experience, especially if you are starting out. But things are very different from when I started. So some people just go freelance and they do well. But I think there's a lot that you learn by being inside an agency that you don't learn when you're freelancing only. And it depends on what you want to do. Like for me, being inside an agency helped me because then I could start my own business and not only freelance. So I could go back, I still have my business that I can go back and do projects, entire projects, where I hire people. And I can also do freelance. And I think that without my agency experience, it would have been very, very hard to do that. But I know people that just do it, and kudos to them. But I think that sometimes you need the experience as well. Being in a big city is actually pretty helpful because that way you can network with people. And being in a city like New York City, where I feel like the community, the motion graphics community is pretty small. And in my experience, I think that people are really helpful and people really will recommend you if you ask them. And going to meetups, it's pretty important. Like I did it a few times and I think that was really helpful to see what everybody was doing. And the agencies, sometimes you only think of the big agencies, but there's so many, and a lot of them will want you to work in-house, but a lot of them will let you work remotely, especially if you already work with them in-house and they know you. I think they will be fine, like once they trust you. But some agencies really don't care where you're at. It depends on what kind of work you're doing. Like if it's something that you really have to collaborate with other people and it's like big files, sometimes it's harder that way. But most of the time, especially for motion graphics, like if you're doing just, 2D After Effects stuff, which is what the work that I do mostly, then they really don't care. Some of them, at least.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying is right, that it's good to get out there and network and maybe, like put in the time in like a bigger city like New York or London or something like that if you can. And then you can go and move out after that.
Right. And what I learned, something very important is also when you're networking is that you have to think of who's hiring, right? It's really good going out with other animators, other motion designers, because they will recommend you. Like when they really need someone, that the producers will go and they're going to ask them. That I've seen it. Like that's how it happens most of the time. But also find out where the producers hang out as well. And network and meet more producers because they are the ones who are hiring for the work that we're doing. I think that you also, when you're in an agency, try to know who the producers are hiring are and make sure that you keep in touch with them because you don't know. Like sometimes what has happened to me also is that a producer will leave an agency and then they will be in another agency and then they will call me from that agency. So you never know. Just networking, meeting people, being nice. You don't have to be a mean person. You can be nice. And the more nice you are, I think that the more people want to work with you. You can be the best animator in the world, the best motion designer in the world. But if you're not nice and people don't want to work with you, people just won't hire you. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And what you were saying as well about having producers hire you when they move on to other agencies and stuff, that's happened to me like so many times since I've been a freelancer. So I definitely think it's good to stay in touch with people. And I like totally agree with you 100% about being nice because your work can be the best in the world. But if you're not a nice person to work with and you don't get on with the team and things like that, then you're right, people aren't going to hire you. And then also like the flip side of that is that if maybe your work isn't the best in the world, if you're a nice person to work with, then they probably are going to hire you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen it time and time again. Like I myself have hired people that maybe are not the best ones, but they're pretty fun to work with and they're pretty chill. And they want, when there's like, this work can be really stressful when you have a deadline because mostly everything it's done yesterday. So when you have someone that's actually pretty cool and it can be very flexible. So when you are very flexible and you kind of roll with the punches and you kind of don't get mad because the client came back with another change and you just like, okay, it is what it is. Sometimes you have no control over it. And if you're easygoing like that, I think I want to work with you and people will want to work with you.
Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to talk a bit about your personal project that you're doing this year because I know you've kind of taken a year off to do this. It's
Hmm.
called She is the Universe. Do you want to tell people more about that?
Yeah, of course. So I'm taking on the role of a filmmaker now. And I had this idea of creating, like, I've always wanted to create something of my own. And at first, I wanted to be motion graphics based, but then I really want to, I started working with a camera and I fell in love with just actually capturing people on camera. So She is the Universe is a video series where I'm traveling around the world for a year and I'm going to every continent except Antarctica because there's no teenage girls in Antarctica I'm going around the world and I'm interviewing girls from 13 to 19 years old and I'm talking to them about what they want in life, about their dreams, passions, and their obstacles, like what things are on their way of getting what they want. And also, the biggest question is how can we all help them get to where they want to be? And for me, this work is kind of like it's an artistic project, but it's also a calling. And I feel like it has to do a lot with bringing to the media, like creating more media where hearing the voices of women. And in my case, hearing the voices of young women that, women in the making, I call them. So it's been a fantastic job. I mean, I created the job of my dreams basically and saved enough. I was saving for a year to do this. And I prepare myself to be able to only do this. Yeah, and now I'm doing it. And that's why I'm in Peru. And last month I was in Colombia and in January I'll be in Iceland. And yeah, and the list is long. And I think it's gonna take more than a year, but I'm giving myself a year because if it feels too big, I will be very scared and I won't do it. So it needs to feel manageable. There's so much that I'm learning by doing this project. What I realized is that we think that for us to do something, we have to like have it all figured out and have all the answers, but we really don't. A lot of the things that I've learned, I don't think that I could have anticipated the things that I needed to learn to do this. Certain things, yes, but I'm filming, I'm directing my own films, I'm editing. I have some help with the editing, but I'm editing a lot as well, and I'm doing the interviews, and I'm contacting people, and I'm doing the marketing and website and it's a lot. And if I knew all that it takes, probably would have said, no, no, not right now. But going at it without knowing all the things that I needed to know is actually a blessing. And there's nothing in the world that I want to be doing right now but this.
Yeah, I think it's really powerful. And that's why I kind of wanted to bring you on the podcast and talk about it because it's very different to what the motion designers are doing, for one, which I think is awesome. And two, I really liked how you talked about it kind of being your calling. Do you want to speak a bit more on that and give people some advice if they feel like they want to do a project, but they're not sure how to start and things like that?
Absolutely. When I started this project, I went to a center for girls. It's like an after school program for girls called Mariposa in the Dominican Republic. And I knew as soon as I got in there, I knew that I had to work with these girls and I didn't know how, I didn't know. And I found my way, I got my courage and I talked to them and I was like, hey, listen, I really love this place and I want to come back. And I went to teach motion graphics, animation, and they had no idea what that was. So then I showed them a little bit of my work and they love it. And they're like, yes, come back. So I did. I started out because I was like, I want more women to be motion designers. Like I go to all these events and there's not that many of us. It feels very lonely. So I want more. So I'm going to find them and let them know that this thing exists because I didn't know that this was a thing when I started going to school. So I figured that more girls needed to know that this is a career option. So that's how I started. And then I realized that what I loved the most was actually listening to their stories and listening to the things that they wanted in life and listening to their struggles. And that opened up something in me. And And I knew, and I'm very big on like I'm a meditator, like I meditate, not every day. I'm not a guru or anything, but I try to be in touch with myself, with my own energy inside and all that. So during this past few years, it's been I had the question of like, if I could do anything in the world, what would I do? And then also the question of what are my superpowers, what I'm really good at. Like, yes, I'm a good motion designer. I'm not the best, but I'm good. But what am I really, really good at? That was my question. And my question was, I think I'm really good at listening to teenage girls. Like for some reason, they want to tell me everything. And I'm good at telling stories that people kind of, that's what I've been doing for my work, just with motion graphics, making things that people can feel things or that people can change their minds about things. So, I was like, how can I mix all these things? Like have this passion to work with girls but I'm a motion designer and I want to tell stories and I want to travel. So that was a big one also. I wanted whatever this thing is, and it's to include travel. And I think that was it for me, just like trying to figure it out. What are the things that light me up? Yes, motion graphics is amazing, but what else? And I'll say to people, what are your hobbies? What are the things that you do that you can be like hours doing that thing? And maybe it's not clear right now how you can maybe make money with that, or how can you make that a job, or how can that, but be curious about it. Like, yeah, there's a reason why you love that thing so much. And how can you combine all the things that you know and all the things that you love and maybe create something? And for me, it's very important giving back. I feel like I've been very lucky and I have gotten so much from life. And there's a lot of people that don't have that chance. And because, like as a motion designer, this is like a dream job. Like everybody sees what I do and they're like, oh my God, you do that for a living. You must be having so much fun. And I do. But I know I can have more fun because if I can combine all of the things that I love, why not do that? So this is what I'm doing now. My way of doing it is just like dropping everything and doing just this, because I feel like that was my calling. And that's something that I feel really, really ingrained in me, that I really have to do this right at this moment. There's no time to waste. That's how urgent it feels to me. But sometimes you don't have to just drop everything. You can start experimenting with things. Like I've seen a lot of people that do projects on the sides and they're amazing. And, maybe that will lead to something or maybe it won't. But if you can have fun and be inspired and maybe from that create something else, I think that why not? So explore, be curious, experiment and try to figure out what is it that lights you up.
You said so many good things. I was like writing notes like, oh my God, this is amazing. For people to hear this, I think it's really powerful because one, you're talking about your passion and you're talking about not worrying about making it a job. I think that's like so powerful. And also the fact that you pointed out that we don't have to do what you've done and drop everything and save up and just pursue that one thing. I mean, I think that's a great idea too, but obviously that isn't for everyone. And we also like have to be aware like that people have children and things like that. But I think it's really awesome that you have done that. When was the last time a client paid you late or you wanted to charge for project files but didn't know how? Most of the issues we face in our businesses as motion designers can be solved with good communication. The best way to communicate your terms upfront to the client and ensure your project runs smoothly is to have a solid contract in place. In talking to motion designers, I know that most are either not using a contract at all or have cobbled together one from various online sources. I get it. Lawyers can be expensive and you just want to get on with what you do best, which is making great work. That's exactly why I created the Freelance Contract Bundle. Designed in collaboration with lawyers from both the UK and the US, the Freelance Contract Bundle is a set of downloadable contract templates made specially for motion designers and animators. It includes a commission contract and a freelance terms of service contract, helping you create smoother relationships both direct to client and also while working with agencies and studios. To find out how the Freelance Contract Bundle can help protect your business, your work, and ensure your projects run smoothly, go to motionhatch.com/contract. Now let's get back to the episode. So I wanted to kind of dig into a few things that you've been talking about. So you said that you saved for a year. So you're basically living off your savings now to pursue this project. Is that right?
Yes. So I'm living off my savings. I also, at the beginning of this, for my birthday, I asked people to donate. So I have some also from that. Not a lot, but something to get me started like that. I feel like seeing that people believe in this also, that was not just a crazy idea in my mind, actually helped me want to do it more. So some financial support there. And then I say that I was not going to do any work after September. So my last job was actually the beginning of September was my last one. But I started already interviewing in June. So yeah, I'm basically living off of my savings. And sometimes I have to tell you, sometimes that is scary because I'm used to, the money coming into my account, and then money mostly now these days is just going out of my account because I'm not doing work. But that's the way I design this. That's the way I plan this. I told my clients, they are very supportive. And I was like, I'm taking a year off, I was very strategic with this, and I'm very grateful that they were like, okay. I was like, listen, I'm not taking any work, but if at some point I feel like I need work, just like, I will come back to you. And they're like, yes, of course. So that's really also very, a relief. And sometimes they, reach out to see if I'm available for a few hours, and I had to say no. Sometimes I say yes, but I'm trying to say no more than yes, because I really want to dedicate my time. My plan was to just do this and give it a chance to be something. But it's all my savings right now. This is the way I see it. Okay. At first I was like, oh my God, I'm not making any money. And then I tried to reframe that. And I was like, what's really happening is there's this woman called Laura, and Laura has a project that she wants to do, and she has some money, and she's hiring me to do it. It just happens that I'm the same person, that, I'm just hiring myself. So that way I can see it as, this is my job now, and someone is paying me for it. And that's it. And that changes a little bit how I'm seeing it, because knowing that there's no money coming into my account can be a little stressful. And I don't want any stress. I want this to be stress-free. Otherwise, it's just not worth it. If you're not having fun, if you're not really enjoying the process, why even do it? So I'm trying to reframe things so I can actually feel good about it.
Yeah, I think it's just really awesome. I really liked how you said that you feel like you're like hiring yourself. That's really cool. And also, I wanted to go over a few other things that you said before, the giving back part of it. And I've watched some of your videos that you've done with She Is the Universe, and I think I cried at like the first 3. I don't know whether I've watched them all, but I definitely remember that I've cried at like 3. So they're really good. They're so powerful. And I just think it's incredible what you're doing. So I just wanted to say that because I want to encourage everyone to go and watch them because they're amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the stories are great.
And I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about meditation, because I know that we use the same app called Insight Timer.
I love it. I love when I see you there.
Yeah, and probably not as much as I should be there, but yeah.
Yeah. So I went through a very difficult time a few years ago. And at the same time where I quit my job and started my own company, I also, I started my company with my person who was my husband then. And then at the same time that I quit my job, I actually also kind of quit my marriage and had a moment where I kind of restructured my entire life. And meditation and trying to connect with myself, I think saved me and made me the person that I am now. Like, I was really scared. I don't think that I would have done anything like this before, or even, a lot of the things that I've done in the past few years for me, and the way I make decisions are really different than the way I made decisions before. And I think that's what meditation does a lot for me, which is that it clears my mind. It doesn't mean that when you sit and meditate, everything, your mind is free and there's no thoughts, because the mind is meant to have thoughts. That's what the mind is for. But it is just like, meditation is just like to be aware of those thoughts and just like, it's just like dedicate time. It's like dedicating time to yourself. Like, why wouldn't you do that? It doesn't mean that I have to do it all the time. And that doesn't mean that I'm, very consistent with it. But I know for sure, I was like thinking about it this morning, how at this time last year was when this project actually came to me. I've been asking, the universe, because I think about, the universe, and I'm not religious, but I believe in there's a higher power. And I was asking, like, what's next for me? What's next for this project? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing? And I can tell you, like, I will ask and I will write things and I had ideas, but really this thing came out of a meditation, and it came kind of like, it didn't came with instructions, but it came pretty complete. Like, I knew exactly what this was, not details, right? Like, I don't know what's going to be a weekly video series and that there are going to be 111 episodes. But I knew that I was going to be traveling and I was going to be talking to girls. And that came because of sitting down and quieting and just like taking time to just do nothing but be with myself. And that app that we use, it's called Insight Timer. And it's super fun because it has many meditations. There's many ways that people can do this. There's not just one way. The simplest ways is just sitting down, closing your eyes, maybe putting an alarm for you can start with 5 minutes and just breathe in and out and just focus on your breath. And that's it. That's all you do. And then you do that again the next day. And I feel like the more I do it, the clearer I am about what I want and about how to go about what I want. These decisions that I'm making in the past few years, they don't come from logic. Sometimes there's no logic to them. Like, some people think I'm crazy. Like, you're making good money doing the work that you do and you're already traveling the world and you're, doing fun work. Like, why would you just drop everything to do this thing that nobody's paying you for? But I think that I made that decision based on my heart and the things that I really believe in. And I think meditation is a big part of how I make decisions and how I approach life.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I'm totally on board with you with this because I'm trying to develop a meditation practice too. I think I was actually talking about it in the last episode that I did about habits and how it's just such a powerful thing because we spend so much time looking at the computer as well and not just letting our thoughts come into our mind and leave us. We're just so occupied all the time. And I just think it's a really great thing. I mean, I got into it because I kind of have a little bit of a Buddhist background, and we won't go into it too much, but basically my dad used to take me to a Buddhist festival because he was into it, and we used to just hang around with all the hippie kids and stuff like that. And I feel like, Laura, you would be one of the hippie kids with me. We're totally on the same wavelength. And everyone else is thinking what are they talking about? I thought this was a podcast about motion design.
Yeah, but yes, it is. And also, I think it's about life, and it's about the life of motion designers. And you're saying something really key there. We spend so much time in the computer because this is what we do, right? This is our work and we love it. And also, sometimes it's really hard to unplug and to even think about something else when you're staring at your computer for so long that you can become really disconnected from yourself, And then you add to that Facebook and Instagram, which are great, but then also very addictive and things that you actually, spend too much time in. And I think that spending some time with yourself, it's also really great for everything because everybody benefits everything. Your work, my work gets better. The more I know myself, my work gets better. So why not?
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I wanted to ask you because I know that we actually met we kind of met online before this, but we met in real life at an entrepreneurship and adventure kind of conference. Do you feel like it's a good idea for motion designers to get out of the industry and go to different kind of festivals and different conferences and meet people from different industries? Do you think that helps you?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, this is what I believe, going to places where you feel let's say that you're a gamer and you love games. Well, no, that's very close to what we do. But let's say, for me, okay, I love everything spiritual and I go to so many spiritual woo-woo events and I've gotten great clients from those as well. And then the good thing is that I know that those are people that are aligned with the things that I love to do. So then we work great. So why not do that as well? You don't know where you're going to meet your people, and the people that are going to hire you and where you're going to get that great project. Also, it's very different, the energy of when you're going to an event that it's only motion design. It's great as well. But then you're going to talk about the same things. And then that's great. But then I think that we need to expand as well, because we need to know a lot about so many things, because our job involves sometimes explaining or communicating something that we're not experts at. And the more we are out in the world and the more we know about things, I think that's great. And networking, going to different things, I think is a great idea. And look, I met you there, and it was nothing to do with motion design. Like, people don't even understand that is until I show them at events like that, which is also pretty great, because then it will be like, oh my God, you do that? Wow. That's actually going to that event a few years ago was how I got connected with Facebook, because someone there we were just talking, and she's like, oh my God, I work with someone that does the presentations for Max Zuckerberg. Like, is that, are you interested in working for that event, events for them? And I was like, yes, I am. And so that's how that happened. So you never know.
Yeah, I think it's the power of like kind of finding a new market and a niche that you're really passionate about.
Yeah, this niche that I work with, like, I mostly work with events, live events, and videos for that, for like huge screens. And I didn't know this was a thing. And how could I know if I'm not, doing events like that? So you never know. There's so many people that need what we do that they don't even know what it is that they're looking for until they meet us. And they're like, oh my God, I've been looking for you my entire life. So you never know.
Yeah. So can you tell us about a book or maybe a podcast that's changed your life?
So something that I really love, it has nothing to do with motion design. I love listening to, there's two podcasts that are always with me. And one is The Good Life Project. And that is all about what it means to have a good life. And they interview people doing amazing things, like people like Elizabeth Gilbert and like a lot of people talking about life. And then another favorite is the TED Radio Hour. Like, every time that I listen to a TED Talk or a TED podcast, it just blows my mind. And I love it. Something that I've been doing in Peru. I can't do it because I'm out of air here. Like, if you hear me talking right now, it's like it's very high. Like, the altitude is just getting to me, so I can run here. But something I do is like I run and listen to a podcast, and that is magical. Have so many ideas that way. So yeah, the TED Radio Hour and the Good Life Project are two of my favorite podcasts.
Yeah, I think the Good Life Project is Jonathan Fields, right?
Yes.
We saw him speak when we were at that conference. Mm-hmm. That was really good.
Yeah, he's part of it. And I'll be in his podcast at some point when I go back to the US. And I really love it.
That's cool. Yeah, I haven't listened to his podcast, so I'm going to do that. But that's awesome that you're going to be on his podcast.
Yeah,
that's
really, I'm excited really cool about that. Yeah, and in terms of books, Big Magic. Have you read Big Magic?
No, I haven't actually.
Well, it's not related exactly with motion graphics, but it's about creativity and how creativity works. It's a super easy read. Every time that I have to give a gift, I'll be like, here's Big Magic. You should know about it. I think it explains in a very magical way how ideas are formed and how to work with creativity and curiosity and all that.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your recommendations. I'm definitely going to check some of those out.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that you'd like the audience to take away from this conversation, what would that be?
Just to be curious and try things out and figure out what you really like to do, and how can you use your superpowers for good, and how can you use your superpowers to do something that really means something to you. I love side projects. If you have time, and if you don't, just carve the time and try to figure it out. What's your voice? Like, what do you want to say? Like, if you were to be gone tomorrow, what's your message for the world? We have a super freaking amazing superpower. Like, this is a great tool and we can do so much with it. So my advice is just to use it for something that really means something to you as well. Make money with it because it's good, but also If you can do both at the same time, great. But if you can't, just like find the time to do things that you also love.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, and something that I'm definitely thinking about is, trying to use my motion design skills to help people and help brands who are having a positive impact on the world. And then obviously also trying to help motion designers with this podcast and things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think that what you're doing right now, it's super amazing. And this is not an animation, but it is pretty great. And you're giving back in an amazing way. We all need to hear all these things.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate that. So if the audience wants to find you and your work, and also importantly, where can they find She Is the Universe? Where can they go?
Yeah. So the website is sheistheuniverse.org. And that's the best way to go about it because, we're in Instagram as She's the Universe Project, but all the links are on the website. So sheistheuniverse.org. That's where you can go and find all the episodes. I think that we are on episode number 4, and then I'm working on number 5 this week. It's coming out this week. And then number 6, I'm so excited for number 6 and number 5. Yeah, so that's where people can go to sheistheuniverse.org.
Cool. So if someone wants to get in contact with you, is the best way to go to that website as well? Or?
Yep. There's a way to contact me there. And I'm very active on Instagram. So if you want to also find me there, She Is the Universe Project. And YouTube as well, as, She's the Universe. That's all. You can find it that way as well. You can see all the episodes and get inspired. And also the biggest thing is like, if you have any teenagers in your life, teenage girls that you think need some inspiration, or, hear about other ways that other girls are doing things in the world, because that's the main thing, then send it to them. Because I think it's important that we get inspired, all of us. This is all about inspiration.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to ask, do you want people to give you any recommendations for people who could be involved in different countries? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to Europe next year. And then I'm going to Southeast Asia, and then I'm going to Australia and New Zealand. And if there's any countries also that you think I should go to for any reason, let me know as well. If you want to host me as I'm in your country also, let me know. I'm a one-woman band. So I'm doing all this myself, my own. So if you want to also help in any way, also I'm open to any help as well. In terms of design for this, in terms of like animation as well, in editing, sound design, especially. So if you see it and you're like, oh my God, I really want to be part of this, just like, let me know. I'm very open to that as well. This is something that I realized too. If you want to do something that's really meaningful, you cannot do it alone. Like as animators, motion designers, graphic designers, we have this power that we can do things just by yourself. But this one that I'm doing right now, it's bigger than me, and I need people. And also for it to be something, I need people.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure everyone listening is going to be really blown away by some of the things that you've said. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was like really fun, and really appreciate you having me here. Thank you so much.
Hey, that was so awesome. Thanks so much to Laura for coming on the show. I so enjoyed talking to her. She's a really, really cool person, and it was really, really nice to chat to her again. So yeah, you should go and check out She Is the Universe because it's really good, and maybe you'll cry like I did, maybe you won't, but you might do because it's pretty powerful stuff. And like she said, if you have any teenage girls in your life and they want to be inspired, then you should definitely send it to them too. You should go to sheistheuniverse.org and check out all of her YouTube videos and like them, and tell her that you listen to the podcast and you think that she's great, because that's, a really nice, cool thing to do too. Thanks so much for listening to the Motion Hatch podcast. If you want to check out the show notes, go to motionhatch.com/27. I really appreciate you all. Thanks so much. See ya.